Welcome to the I'm Out Here show, I guess. Maybe that's what we'll call it. Maybe we won't. But it is going to be likely a very long and drawn out series of videos that are going to contain traveling, and also this will be hopefully in podcast form as well, just audio. Um, so if you're only hearing this, sorry you're not getting to see me, but here comes a yawn. Oh, now I may be doing this late at night, and I may be a little bit tired, but something that not a lot of people realize is that I yawn a lot, and it does not mean that I'm sleepy necessarily. That's just I've been yawning a lot since probably ever since I started having liver issues. Honestly, maybe maybe before that. I mean, I'm 37, nearly 38. Late at night can mean a lot of yawning very early. But anyway, at any rate, the purpose of all of this is going to be a way for me to reach out to just a unlimited amount of people and share my story, of sobriety and strength and recovery, and being on a journey through life that doesn't require alcohol anymore. Um, and, being able to show people that they're not alone in whatever their struggles are. I went through it too. Maybe they're not identical, but there will be, comparable situations, whether it be a financial thing, a relationship thing, job, employment wise. A number of different things are affected by alcohol abuse, and every single one of them in my life was affected. No doubt. That's my fault. Brought it on myself. Sure, it feels like suffering now, but sometimes that's the price you pay in being there for others, and building a track that others can walk down, and or at least leading by example. You don't have to walk down the exact same track that I have. You don't have to do anything I have. If you're drinking, even if you're, you know, every night, every couple of nights having some drinks. I'm not here to preach to you, and I'm not here to tell you to stop. I am only here, really to share my story, and hope that if any part of it resonates with you, maybe it'll help, and maybe there will be some other thought that comes into mind other than I'm gonna go have a drink because that feels like what I should be doing. Because no part of your day requires alcohol. I'll say it for the rest of my life. No part of your day or your evening requires alcohol. Pardon me for the yawns. And also, when I get long-winded, when I get to talking a lot, I catch myself yawning. I forget to take those in breaths and feed the body the oxygen that it needs. Now, the best way, honestly, for me to be able to share this message and have it be impactful at all is to just be very, very honest and very forthcoming with everything that I went through. So, if you're ready for that, so am I. I think this will be the first time that I've actually told the story of how alcohol tried to kill me, or how I really tried to drink myself to death. It'd be the first time that I told that story in a public forum like this. So bear with me. A lot of people ask, early on, what were some of the symptoms? What were some of the signs? Did you know that this was coming? Did you have any idea that something was wrong? And while I did, it was a series of symptoms that I did not know were connected, and I did not know were clear signs of anything. That's one of the scariest parts. Is when you're battling alcoholism, when alcohol is a vice for you, and it has a grip on you and your life. It's such a powerful thing. But alcoholism, the disease, is a liar, and it is the only disease on the face of the earth that will, as you have it and as you are battling it in its deepest of depths, alcoholism is the only disease that will tell you you don't have it. And that is a lie. That is why a lot of people think, I'm drinking just like my buddies. I'm drinking like anybody else, my girlfriends, whoever it is. Girls' night out having drinks, martinis, guys going out to the bar, pounding beers and shots, going to see that local band, whatever the case is. The entire time you will think to yourself, well, why do I have a reason to stop? That's alcoholism lying to you and destroying you. In those decision-making moments of, am I going to drink? Am I not going to drink? If you're deciding what you want at a restaurant, when someone says, oh, you always order this, that's part of your personality, whatever it is. There's two things in your brain, in the prefrontal cortex, that alcohol will also attack, because it's shrinking your brain as you drink in excess. But in the prefrontal cortex of your brain, and you can fact check, I don't know. I mean, fact check me, but I'm pretty sure this is right, just based off my own experiences coming out of the grips of alcoholism and just being a walking drunk. But in that portion of your brain, in the prefrontal cortex there, you have your personality, and you have your decision making. And while I'm not talking about decision making on buying a house, I'm talking about decisions on food. Basic stuff that have to do with your own personality. Things that you would normally go for or not go for. Alcohol will shrink your brain and attack that portion of it. And so honestly, you're sacrificing actual pieces of yourself. Say you're going out to the bar for, to meet somebody, or you're hopefully going to meet somebody, and you get a couple drinks in for that liquid courage. you're really just kind of doing yourself a disservice, because now you're deleting your own decision making, you're deleting your own personality, you're taking on this veil, this cover of, a pretender. And it's just not necessary. Now, I say that it attacks those things, and it'll alter those parts of you, and I say that that's based on my own experience. That's because I spent nearly 20 years drinking like a fish. I mean, through the different careers I've had, some of them, a couple, were they kind of coincide with alcoholism, or alcoholism is predominant in those professions. One of them being law enforcement. I was a police officer and an investigator for the better part of 6 years, and along with relationship issues because of poor decision making, there comes alcohol too, and that leads to more poor decision making. And another one, which I haven't even given up, would be music. I travel around playing music for right now. I'm full time for one band, and but from time to time the phone rings and someone needs a guy to sit in and just fill a spot, and that's me. My phone rings not as often as I want. I'm not gonna lie there. But being in bars playing music is kind of not really where this came from. This, I'm out here has been a big part of me, or a big idea in my head ever since I did get sober. And a lot of it came from people saying, how are you still doing these things? And you were supposed to kind of quit all this. There's a lot of people say, well, you're supposed to die. And while that didn't happen, I also didn't quit playing music. Now, with the supposed to die part, I guess we could start where I woke up in the hospital. And I recall, I don't have any notes in front of me, so this will be based off of memory, but I relive a lot of it pretty often, not by choice. A lot of this is some traumatic stuff. To wake up in that hospital room in the ICU, or I say wake up, that's when my brain started to be able to make more sense of things. Reality was coming back for me. True reality, the same one that everyone with some sanity around me was experiencing. So that's what I call waking up. I looked around that room and I saw. It was still a little confusing because I saw some faces that I hadn't seen in several years. I was 33 at the time, so this was 2000. Don't get me lying. Was this 2020? Yeah, 2020. I suppose. And so being 33, waking up and seeing people that you hadn't seen since you graduated high school, these were classmates. I saw family was in the room that I hadn't seen since I had graduated high school. They had been in for my graduation. That was my two half brothers from my dad's previous marriage. It was a very, I say, sobering feeling. It was quite a shock. And the first thing I'm looking around, I feel terrible. Something is definitely wrong with me. I feel like I'm not myself. Certain things aren't making sense. Faces aren't recognizable, at certain times, or I forget names. I remember a nurse came in, or someone from the hospital staff, rather, in their administration part, came in and asked me to sign a document, and I went to write my name, and it wasn't that I forgot my name or I forgot how to spell it, and it wasn't that I forgot how to write. It was just that when I wanted to concentrate on writing my name, there was this disconnect, and I could have wrote cheeseburger and thought that was correct. I don't know. Like I say, I was still coming out of severe hallucinations. I believe when I was first admitted into the ICU and things started to get real bad, which was within hours. I want to say that someone at the hospital told me that they were really afraid that I was going to start having some seizures, and at that point, it's really just the body trying to rally, whatever it's got, even though this very important piece of you, your liver, is failing. And unfortunately, my kidneys were right behind it. They had begun to shut down as well. So it was, I just, went from normal day, having a conversation with my significant other at the time, my girlfriend, in our home. And then the next thing I know, it's 2 weeks has passed, about roughly 2 weeks, maybe a little more. And I'm home, and I'm not alone. But I had this overwhelming sense, or this feeling, that that I was gonna be. I didn't know where it was coming from, but I very much felt that if I do not start preparing myself mentally and somewhat physically and get myself on a routine or some sort of system, I'm going to not have a very good outcome. Now, I say I woke up, and it was about after 2 weeks or so of, some really, when I say some severe hallucinations, we don't talk a lot about it, but maybe, in prior lives, previous to law enforcement, doing other things, making bad decisions as a young man, a hallucination may have been something that occurred with intent. Not going to elaborate any more than that, but we're talking about 20 years ago. And then you fast forward, and I'm experiencing the most vivid and terrifying hallucinations I could ever, beyond what I could, try to fabricate for myself mentally. This was, if you've ever seen Disney's movie Fantasia, it was that after it took some sort of hallucinogenic drugs itself. Plus, true parts of you and yourself and your surroundings will actually make appearances, and they're not really there. And that is also a very terrifying thing. I digress. I actually don't like talking about that a whole lot. Maybe later I'll get more into that. Now, prior to those couple weeks of being in ICU and coming out of near death, it was told to me that the people in the room that have come to see me have not come to see me with, get better soon balloons and flowers of well wish, cards with well wishes and things like that. But instead, they had come there to say bye to an old friend who was seeing his way out, was going to check out. And that's, to come back from that, to bounce back from that is rough. But now let's get into some of those symptoms that I wasn't connecting and realizing, are part of liver failure or, end stage liver disease, which is what I was eventually diagnosed with, and severe cirrhosis of the liver. That this started to take place during a summer that music had picked up for me. I was playing damn near every weekend. It was great. I was getting to go play some places that I hadn't been able to before. I had some opportunities with some artists and some groups that are now really, really on their way up. And so I was kind of, I was enjoying myself. And at the time I was drinking pretty heavily. My live-in girlfriend at the time was also drinking heavily. And it was just, it was nothing to go out for the weekend, have a great time. Jeremy plays a show. We got some drinks. We get back home. Sunday fun days happen at friends' houses. It was a good summer. And I remember I'd come off stage one night. This must have been about a week or two before I wound up in the hospital. And I come off stage one night, and I had played with this group, and they had a keyboard player who had an iPad almost resting right there on his keyboard. And I looked down, and we had played together, a handful of times by this point. And I was really working on that full-time spot for them too. But that's just to say that I was being very irresponsible, and you miss out on great opportunities by being an idiot. When I looked down at this key player's iPad, the background to me looked as green as trees in the spring. It was very green. It was like the brightest thing I could see on the stage, and there were plenty of stage lights. This was somewhere in Dallas, Texas. A really cool venue. I can't remember, but I want to say it was in anyway, it doesn't matter. But I leaned over during a break, and I told the key player, I said, "Man, you got to change the background on your iPad. That green is wearing me out." And he said, "No, it's not green. It's white, just like every other night. It's just my regular background." And I said, "Well, can you change it to dark mode or something? Like it's wearing me out." And he said, "Yeah." So he said he changed it, and then it was this weird, like gray and yellow together. Anyway, so I knew that there was something That struck me as odd. But sometimes things just don't look right to you. Now, fast forward a couple days, I played an outdoor gig where I was facing into the sun, and I wore sunglasses and a ball cap. So I thought I was pretty protected for the most part. The following day after this show, I remember waking up and I looked out of when I walked into the living room of my house. I looked outside and I thought, wow, there's so much sand or dust in the air. It's crazy looking out there. It's kind of like this sandstorm is coming through, and that's not the most uncommon thing, but it definitely stood out. Me to think that was happening when clearly it wasn't. But every time I would go outside, there was this haze, there was this fog, this sandy, gritty looking, and not even just a sandy or a gritty look, but my eyes felt as if there was sandpaper in them. So that was pretty odd. And I thought, oh, okay. I've sunburned my eyes or something. And clearly not the case. What was occurring was just a severe amount of dehydration and toxin buildup in my body. The liver had begun to stop filtering things, and so my ammonia levels were getting really, really high, and then my eyes became jaundiced. My skin became jaundiced. And when your eyes get to that level of jaundice, in my experience, it actually causes other colors and bright lights and things like that to appear very, very different to you. Because the eye it's suffering. It's essentially dying. Both of them are just dying in your head. And the brain's not doing much better behind it. It's getting shriveled up and beaten to a pulp in there. So then, I believe it was when it was when I went to go pick up my son, that his mother, where we had met there for, do a little quick exchange. I pick him up, grab his bags and things like that for the weekend. She looked at me just dead in the face, so serious. And she said, "Are you sick?" And I said, "No, I don't get sick. Other than maybe in the deep part of winter, I'll lose my voice. I don't get sick. Why are you asking me that?" And she said, "You're sick. You need to go to the doctor." And she stood up, looked over the car, looked at my significant other at the time, and she said, "You need to get him to a doctor." And I thought, I don't know. Even looking at myself in the mirror, nothing looked bad. But it's all lies coming from alcohol. I look back at pictures and see how big and swollen I was, and then I see myself now, and I'm like, I don't even remember, or I can't imagine what it felt like to carry that around, because, I get winded just taking Dozer on a walk. I was 200, and I think at my biggest I was like 256 pounds. And I don't call me a liar either. If you know me and you were around me at that time, you know that that's true. Now, when I did get sick to the point that I was in the hospital, they also gave me what is called a paracentesis. I'm not going to spell that for you because I'll mess it up. But paracentesis is when they take this needle, and yeah, and I don't remember what gauge it is, but it's thick. And they roll you onto your side, and they feel around the rib area, and they clean it off with that weird, pre-surgical looking brown rubby stuff. They clean off the spot there, and they just take that needle, and it's attached to this weird, odd-looking thing, and they got some glass jars. They look like they're about to pickle something, like they're about to jar something, and they got these weird tops on these jars with some hoses and things. And they don't really say much to you except they ask you, Mr. Jeremy, do you know what a paracentesis is? And I said, I cannot repeat what you just said. I've already forgot it. And they said, well, we need you to roll on your side. Okay. They said, you've got some fluid buildup inside of you. It's back in the chest cavity and above the abdomen and things, and kind of surrounding your stomach there. And I thought, okay, that's beer gut. Well, it turns out that beer gut is what looked to me like dark beer, because they took that needle and they felt the rib cage, and right after they cleaned off this little area right here in the side, they just shoved that needle off in there, and I mean all the way. And then the hose goes onto these glass things that I was telling you about, these glass jars. And when they release something, I don't know, there's a vacuum effect, and it drains that fluid from inside of you. And I want to say that these containers were about the size of a milk jug, about a gallon of milk, maybe not that big, so maybe not a full gallon, but several quarts each bottle was. And I believe, if I can ever find the picture, I believe there was a picture taken. I think I filled up about 3.5 of them, 2.5 at least, might have been 3.5. But I lost 10 pounds right then. And then, 6 months later, I'd gone from north of 250 to down into the high 140s, low 150s. And that was quite a ride. Now, that's a bit of an overview of what has happened to me due to the abuse of alcohol and the inability to just have a drink, without making it 6 and then 12. I was drinking heavy. I was drinking, do they call it a handle? I don't even know. I didn't even pay attention. Hey, the biggest bottle you got of vodka, that's what I want. Put that in a bag. And then you stop at another store and you grab a 30-pack of Frio Light. That was my beer. Well, that was on weeks that I hadn't got paid, because that was when I could still walk into a store and throw the clerk behind the counter a $20 bill for a 30-pack of beer, and they would give me change. It was wild. That and a bottle of vodka would last me about 2 days. Drink myself stupid. I'd be going to work too. And you do that for an extended amount of time, and nothing good is going to come from it. Now that's like I said, that's a brief little bit of an overview of what happened there at the beginning, and some of the things that I experienced with the hospital, and beforehand and after. Not so much after I got out. We'll pick up on that another time. But if you've stuck around this long, I appreciate it. And just know that the stories that I intend to share are going to be 100%. They're going to be 100% the truth, and some of them will be tougher for me to tell than others, and some others will have a harder time listening than I do telling some of these things too. But there is a lot more, and just know that it's me sharing real life events, real things that I went through, in the hopes that if any of it resonates with any of you, or if you think of someone while you're hearing or watching this, maybe turn them on to it, and all I can say is with everyone's support, which has already been so great. I couldn't do it without y'all, but with that kind of support, and if we can keep it going, we're going to take this thing to a really great place, and we're going to do some good for a lot of people. And I've always said, because it is so important to me, it really is. I've always said that if part of the suffering is the price of helping others, if it stops just one person from experiencing any part of what I went through, that's worth it to me. Because I've met a lot of people through law enforcement, through music, through other things, and I'm here to tell you that I don't know that I have met another person who can make themselves get to the other side of some of the things that I did. It's not. I am so fortunate to still be here, and when I tell you that all the faces that I saw in that room in the ICU looking back at me, I saw a lot of disappointment. I saw a lot of I can't believe it. I saw a lot of some sorrow, some pity, a lot of disappointment though. But there was one face that they brought in later on, a couple days actually after I'd woken up. They had given me the chance to start to get my mind right. And I'd started making some progress when we didn't think that I was going to. Because, I was given a 2% chance of getting out of there. I was given a 2% chance just to see the next hour. Every hour. But when my mind started to get right, and they brought in my son, Connor, there was no one else in that room other than me and him. He was all I could see. And those faces of disappointment or sorrow or, just this shame on you kind of air about things, all that just went away because his face was, you're all right. And I get it. He was looking up at his superhero, and I'm sorry, I'm getting a little upset here. But all of these things are very vivid still in my mind. Very. But he was looking up at his superhero, and he saw this. He saw that I was down, and his face was he had a look of hope and a look of uh I need you. I mean, really, that was it. At that point, that was when I decided that I'm getting out of there, and for the rest of my life, no part of my life requires alcohol. Hey, y'all, it's Jeremy. Thanks for sticking around. And if any part of this message resonates with you or you think it might resonate with someone else, be sure to stop by the website, www.imouthehere.com, or just check on the link in the description below. For now, I'm out here.